Of the calluses.
Audio
Good evening, Vivek sir. Shall we start?
Yes, please start.
Yeah. There are about 46. I think we can start now.
Yeah, done.
Namaskar and good evening, all of you. So let us understand why we gathered today. Safe food and healthy diets are critical in the context of India's high burden of foodborne diseases like undernutrition, micronutrient deficiencies, and a growing incidence of obesity and non-communicable diseases like hypertension, diabetes, and heart-related diseases. In addition, the current food production and consumption of food practices are threatening the environment and the future of our planet. So this underlines the need to focus on preventive healthcare through ensuring a safe, healthy food for all people in an environmentally sustainable way. So this Eat Right Chennai is a food safety awareness program. It's an initiated by the Government of India to promote this awareness on safe, healthy, and sustainable food. So Savera, Green Goddesses, and Parikshan joined together along with the Tamil Nadu Government Food Safety Department to spread this awareness as per the directive of our Joint Managing Director, Ms. Neena Reddy. We are keep organizing this Eat Right Food Safety Awareness Program under the banner of Savera Hotel to achieve the objective. So today, let us welcome our guest speaker and our diamond trainer, Mr. Vivek. Is an eminent consultant, food safety head for Western region from Parikshan to start the session now. Vivek sir, over to you, sir.
Thank you very much, Dennis. Thank you. So good afternoon, everyone. So thank you, Savera, and thank you, Tamil Nadu Food Safety Department, for giving me this opportunity to come over here and meet everyone and conduct this beautiful training session. So as Mr. Dennis has already informed, the purpose behind this training session, Eat Right. So currently, if you see in the recent times, from the time of COVID and also some years before, we all have understood the importance of food safety, hygienic food, what are the microbial diseases which are spreading through food, and how much important it is to ensure that we consume the safe food at the regular time. Sound is echoing. Can someone, I'll just do one thing, I'll mute everyone. So whenever any questions are there, you can unmute and ask me. Meanwhile, I'll keep everyone on mute. Denison sir, can you just mute everyone? I'm not able to mute it from my
Yes,
end.
sir. I'll do that.
Ma'am, can you hear the echo again? Is it comfortable? If someone can just reply back to that. Okay, I think so. There's no issues. Okay, thank you very much. So this Eat Right concept had came in to understand that along with the safe food, along with safe and hygienic food, there is a requirement to understand the type of food which we are consuming. Is it good for health or not? Are we moving towards a healthy lifestyle for a living? Healthier lifestyle is the biggest concept. As Dennison has said that we are facing a lot of issues because of the malnutrition. There are death. There are many people who are suffering from different type of deficiency at the earlier age itself. And people are also going through the obesity, which has become a biggest problem in the today's kids generation. To understand what is the right way of consuming food and identifying the food, this session has become a very important thing. So Eat Right Chennai, the whole concept behind this is Eat Right Chennai. So within the Chennai district, we have started this program to make everyone aware. So as we all have gathered today, we are conducting this training sessions for school students. We are conducting for the college students. We are doing for street food vendors. We are doing for big IT parks. At every location, wherever possible, we are conducting this so that people learn and understand the habit which we have to cultivate from now. So beginning, so I have a request. Okay, I have got from Anu Agarwal ma'am that she is not able to hear. Can others hear it? Dennison sir, can everyone hear it? Is it all okay?
Your voice is audible, sir.
Okay, fine. Thank you. Ma'am, please check it once. I'm sorry. Okay. So the first question to everyone, whoever wants to answer can unmute. The first question is Zaki. Whenever we go to buy any product, any kind of packed product, In the label, what are the things do we check? Anyone can unmute and answer it.
Can I say?
Yes, please, ma'am.
Expert.
Ingredients. We look at the expiry date,
Okay.
and that's about it. These are the two things which I see. Ingredients mainly first, and then the expiry date of the product.
Okay. So ingredients and expiry, that is one thing. So most commonly, we have asked everyone this question. So the maximum answer which we get is the expiry date. That is the first thing. And after that is the ingredients. And after that is the veg and non-veg symbol. These are the three things only what 99% of our Indians we check in a labeling. But there are more important things which we have to check it. So I'll just say a few of the things. You can note it down or you can just remember it. The first important thing which we have to check is whether we are having the FSSAI license number mentioned in it or not. I repeat, FSSAI license number, is it mentioned or not? FSSAI is basically the Food Safety Standard Authority of India, the one which gives you the license to run any kind of food business in our country. This license number is mandatory to be displayed on each and every packed product. I repeat, it is mandatory to display on each and every product. So many people ask us, if this license number is there, what is the advantage as a customer? Tomorrow, if that packet has any kind of issue, if there is any kind of misbranding, or if there is any adulteration, you have a doubt that this product is adulterated, or you find any kind of pest or any issue in that product, with the license number, you can complain online in an application platform called as Food Safety Connect. In Food Safety Connect, you get the option to put the license number. You can put what type of issue you have faced. You can take a photograph of it and you can upload it. So these facilities have started, and sometimes many people has a doubt that is this company real or not? Because we have seen different brands say that Idem oil, they have some kind of labeling, but it is not actually Idem. It is some other company. So in that case, if you have any kind of doubt with the license number, you can find the company's name, address, and other details. The FSSAI license number is the first thing which has to be checked. Ma'am has asked where to complain. I will share the link to you. It is called as Food Safety Connect. There is an app. There is an online link also. I repeat, Food Safety Connect. At the end of this, I'll put it in the chat box so that everyone can access to it. In Play Store, the app is available, Food Safety Connect. When you complain in this, within 24 hours, any kind of action will be initiated against the company. It will be initiated, but the result will take some time, but at least the actions are initiated. So the first thing you have to check is FSSAI license number. The second thing, as you said, we have to check the manufacturing date and we have to check the best before or use by date. Everyone said expiry date, but expiry date is only for medicinal products. It is only for medicinal cosmetic products. For food, it is only best before or use by. I repeat, it's only best before and use by. Can anyone answer where do you find this use by and where do you find this best before? Anyone can unmute and tell. In which products you have seen use by and in which products you see best before?
For breads and all, we see use by, and best before is for these bottles, like we have these Ruafzas and all those tanks and all that, I think.
Correct. You're absolutely right. The answer basically thing is any product which has a shelf life more than 15 days will have best before date. Anything less than 15 days will have use by. The meaning of use by is very simple. Use by means if I say 4 days is its use by date, 5th day it has spoiled. For example, bread, you have said that the use by date is 17th and you're buying the product on 13th. So for 4 days, it is safe for consumption. But it doesn't mean that 4 days, the quality which I have given on the first day will remain same till 17th. But it is safe for consumption. The first day, the bread will be soft. Second day, it will get little hard, but it is safe for consumption. Third day, it will get even hard, but definitely safe. Fourth day, it will become hard and it will get the fungus growth on it. That is the day when it is unsafe. So the day it gets unsafe means it is used by date. After that, no matter what, you can't use it. Whereas best before. Best before means the company is assuring you till this date, the quality, the taste, the texture, the safety, everything I give you a guarantee of it. After that, it may be safe, it may not be safe, but we don't give any assurance. So as a food preparer, food consumer, we have to ensure each and every product is consumed before the best before or before use by date. There are many times I have personally seen in my family and my friend circle, people try to use things after best before date. They say that it's only 1 or 2 days left. We can use it. There is no problem. दो दिन में कुछ नहीं होता है. We'll use it and there won't nothing. There can be any kind of chemical side effects when any product leaves its time. The chemical residue starts settling in the product. So it can be harmful. It may not show you immediately, but it can show you in the later stage. Another habit which everyone has is for milk. Milk, what they do, we have a use by date. But some people, some household people, what they do is they keep it in the freezer. They think that if we keep it in the freezer, we can use for 1 or 2 days more. That is a wrong thing. Use by date means no matter at what condition you keep it in the chiller or you keep it in the freezer, it will definitely get expired after that use by date.
Even
So,
same is done with bread also to make it.
Exactly.
Yes.
Same, ma'am. As you said, it is perfect. Even if you keep your bread in the outer condition or you keep the bread in the chiller, if the use by date is 4 days, within 4 days it will get spoiled.
You have
You may
to throw
not
it,
see.
right?
We have to discard it. We shouldn't use for consumption. All your bakery products, everything is the same. So this is the first important thing, which is the basic meaning of best before and use by. Expiry date has already gone. It is only for medicinal products which has been come. Okay. So this is important about the labeling. Next thing is the symbol, the logo, veg and non-veg symbol which we have. So currently, as per the previous law, we had all your veg products with green symbol, that is a green circle with a square in it. And for your non-veg, we have brown color. Basically, it looks like red, but in actual, it is a brown color. So with a rectangle and a circular inside. Recently, there has been a new law. There are some changes which has come, which you will soon see in all the packing materials. For non-veg, there will be a triangle and a color inside it. Triangle, red color, and the circle will be inside it. The reason why this changes has come is because of the many people have color blindness. The people who have color blindness, they can't identify between the veg and non-veg, who can't read, but they can just see the logo. For them, this identification has come. So soon this will change. There are some places, if you see, you find some kind of bakery products. You find some kind of fresh noodles. Many people buy fresh boiled noodles from the market to get the perfect texture and everything. But please ensure the fresh noodle or the dry noodles contains veg symbol or not. There are many products in the market which comes without the symbol. It comes with the packing material, it has all the labeling rules, but it may not have the symbol in it. That symbol may contain non-veg in it. That is the reason why they are not mentioning it. Dennis, is my voice getting cut in between? I have Chandralekha ma'am said that it is getting disconnected.
No, sir.
Is it all
audible.
clear? Okay, okay, fine.
Yeah,
Thank
sure.
you, thank you. So as I said, this veg and non-veg symbol, you have to check for each and every product, because I'll give an example of noodles. We have visited many noodle manufacturing industry. So what they use is they use the egg white to make the noodle to ensure that it doesn't become sticky. So that reason, when they use the egg content in it, they won't put any kind of logo in it. So that time you may consume a non-veg product which we are not assured. So please ensure you always check the symbol before you buy it. So that is one of the important things. Another thing is that the company name, address should be there mandatorily. Even if any complaints is there, the company number should be there mentioned in it. As you said, ingredients, the list of ingredients, what it is made of should be there. Today's generation are getting allergic to different type of products. If any people are allergic to any specific product, To know that if that product contains that specific allergens, we need to read that ingredients is very important. When you read this ingredients, apart from the basic raw material name, what are the other names you have seen? Anything which is technical? Anyone can unmute.
ஏபிசின்னு வரும்
E-
ஏ தான்
AB
ஸ்மால்னு இருக்கும்ல
uh, sorry, can anyone say in the ingredients what are the other things which we have seen? Apart from the-
MSG,
yes, very good. MSG,
Sodium,
monosodium glutamate, sodium, very good.
sodium,
preservatives.
Have you ever seen any kind of numbers? Yeah, E123. So they have written E123. So there are different number of numbering systems. There are two numbering. One we see INS number, one we see E numbering. So anything which has E number or INS number, it basically means that that product contains additive in it. All those products are made using additives. Any product which has additives like preservatives, color, your stabilizer, your emulsifier, anything, any chemical, artificial product which is added to it, they will be represented with a number, INS or E number. E number is for your color. If any food product has artificial color in it, it will be having E numbering in it. E123, E111, E220, anything. So all those number are approved artificial colors which can be used in the product. Any product you make, if you use color in it, that number should be mentioned. Similar to it, any preservative, if it is used, that means that the numbering should be mentioned. So this we have to check and buy. Another very important thing is the nutritional information. So in this nutritional information, have anyone checked it before buying?
yeah.
What do we see in that, ma'am?
We see this sugar,
Very good.
sodium, and all that,
Very
but then
good.
trans fat. But
Very
we get
good.
confused in that.
Okay.
We don't know whether it is good fat or bad fat.
Yes. So I'll make it simple in this. So there is a logo behind this Eat Right campaign. The logo behind this Eat Right campaign is three things: less sugar, less salt, less fat for a longer and healthy lifestyle. Less sugar, less salt, and less fat. These three things will lead to a healthier lifestyle. So when I say this less sugar, fat, and salt, how do you identify from this nutritional and the ingredients detail? First, I'll start with your fat content. The fat will be represented in four types. One is monosaturated fat, that is written as MUFA, MOFA, MUFA, mono unsaturated fat. Second is PUFA, polyunsaturated fat, PUFA, polyunsaturated fat. Third is cholesterol. Fourth is trans fat. All these four together basically represents the total fat content in your product. Now, which are the product which is good for health or not? Which are high fat product? How do you identify it? Any product which has a trans fat more than 3%. I repeat, any product which has trans fat more than 3% is high fat product. In the current labeling law, it is mandatory that they mention it as a high fat product. The current packaging product, the current product in the market, you won't find it, but soon it will come in action. So till that, you can read and understand if the trans fat is more than 3%, it is a high fat. Similarly, when you total all the four fat which I told, monounsaturated, polyunsaturated, cholesterol, and trans fat, the total percentage, if it is more than 10%, if it is more than 10%, again it is a high fat product. So more than 10% also we have to avoid. If the trans fat alone is more than 3% also, it is a high fat product. So this is the first thing which we have to read it and we have to understand. This was about fat. Second thing is about the salt. Whenever you see regarding the salt, salt is never written directly as salt. It will be written in the form of sodium. It will be sodium glutamate, it will be sodium bicarbonate, it will be monosodium glutamate. So it can be in any form. Anything which is with sodium, everything is basically salt only. So that is how you check your salt content in your product. Regarding this cooking oil, I'll just come back. As we go in this topic, I'll be coming on that also. I'll definitely answer for that. So when I wanted to say about this salt, I have just one question anyone can answer. Average salt consumption per day. How much we should do, how much we are doing. Average salt consumption.
5 gram per day.
Sorry, how much?
5 grams per day.
That is what we are, that we should do. Correct? How much are we doing currently?
Much
5
more
gram
than
is
that.
the ideal, which is very correct. So as per your WHO standards, so please mute it. Someone has unmuted. 1 minute. Okay. So as per your WHO standards, it should be below 3 grams per day. But Indian standards, as per your Indian geographical and climatic condition, it is said that you can use up to 5 gram. It is good for our lifestyle. But we actually consume around 12 to 13 grams per day. The salt which you said 5 gram is basic the salt which we add in our food on a day-to-day basis. But in the packed product, which I said, the sodium and the other thing, that is also a salt which we are consuming daily. So that salt calculation also we have to do on a day-to-day basis, and we have to ensure it comes down up to 5 gram. It doesn't go more than 5 gram. So this is regarding the salt we have to check. Ma'am had asked about which type of salt you can use. Definitely you can use your rock salt. It is definitely good for your health. But again, you're using a normal salt and the rock salt. It depends on your cooking method, what type of food you're cooking. So any type of gravy or other things, you can go for a rock salt. Any type of your rice or other thing which is smaller, you can use your normal table salt. The important thing is go and check your iodine level. The iodine level, every salt should have certain amount of iodine present in it. That iodized salt intake is very, very important. So that we have to check. So the next important thing is about the fat. Fat we have discussed, salt we have discussed, sugar. So everywhere the sugar will be written in two ways. One is sugar and one is added sugar. So the sugar means that any product which has natural sugar present in it. If you take any kind of fresh juice or other items, it will have fresh juice in it. So that natural sugar will be mentioned in that. And apart from that, you will be adding artificial sugar to it. That artificial sugar like a glucose, glucose and everything, that will be also present. That what is the quantity we have to check. There are many people who use this normal, your juice. That juice for 100 ml, they contain up to 20 milligram of sugar. The 20 milligram also, whether it is present or not, you need to check it. So that you know that whether it is a right food or not, it is a right sugar or not. Average for any 100 ml juice, if it is between 10 gram to 12 gram, it is a healthy juice. It is a healthy drink that you can go for option. But if it is goes for 220 gram plus, it is a high sugar product. So any product which has high fat and high sugar, soon it will be mentioned. So that also will be coming into the market. High sugar product, high fat product will be mentioned. Salt, it won't be there, but high sugar and high fat products will be mentioned in the label itself, and it will be coming. So this was one important thing which I had to share. So many rock salt brand doesn't mention the iodine content. There are some salts in the market which are coming, rock salt itself, they mention the iodine content. So regarding this, I just want to add, whenever you're buying any product, there is some product called as fortified product, which comes with a symbol F plus. I will just show it. I'll just do a share screen to you. 1 minute. ஆனா அந்த டோர் மட்டும் சாத்திருங்க. டோரை சாத்திருங்க. Okay, I've just done the screen share. If you can please see it. Yeah. So this F plus symbol, if you can see, these are the products which are fortified. So the meaning of fortified is that key, the basic nutrient, the micronutrients which are required for our body is added in the products, and it is added in a quantity which every person is required to consume at a basic level. So in what all products you'll be seeing this fortified F plus symbol. It is for your 5 staple food as of now. First is for your rice, second is for your oil, third is for your salt, fourth is for your milk, and fifth is for your wheat, all your wheat products. So if these products has this F plus symbol, it means that key micronutrients, like for example in oil, vitamin D will be added in it for a specific level which is required. If it is a wheat, in that wheat, folic acid and iron will be added into it for the required level. If it is milk, vitamin D, your vitamin B12 will be added to the required level. Similar to rice, folic acid, iron, and vitamin B12 will be added. So any product, whenever you see, specifically for your kids, please look into this fortification symbol. Currently in market, you are getting for wheat, Ashirvad Atta, you can find it. For milk, not the traditional milk packets, currently in Chennai has started it, but all your Tetra Pak milk are coming with F plus product. Soon Avin and other company will come with F plus. Oil, like your sunflower oil and everything has started this F plus. Rice is soon going to come in Tamil Nadu. But other 3 products, the F plus has already come in. For other things also soon we are going to get it. So this fortification sign is very important before you buy anything and check for this 5 specific product. As ma'am said about the rock salt, so the product, some products will have iodine to the desired level, but the products which doesn't have iodine in the desired level, they won't be mentioned in it. It is mandatory to mention, but they don't mention it. So those products, please avoid to buy it. They are not following the labeling law. That is the reason why this issue is there. So please go for this F plus product. Find it in the market. It is already available in most of the supermarkets, and buy it according to that. So this was the main things about the labeling. Apart from the nutrition, you have checked your ingredients, you have checked the manufacturing date, best before date, you have checked the symbol, FSSAI license number, company name, address. These are all the important things which you have to check. Even today, there are many people who are buying products which are purchased in loose. There are some companies or some supermarkets or some basic local shops, retail shops, which do the loose item packing and they provide it. Please don't buy it. And current generation, we are buying a lot of imported products, lot of imported sauces and bakery items and everything. Each and every imported products should mandatorily have the FSSAI details of the importer. Without FSSAI, there will be no products sold in the market. If the FSSAI is not available for the imported product, it means that the product has illegally come into the market, which is not approved to be sold. So please check, even for your imported product, these things are available. Okay, these are the things about labeling. The next important topic which I wanted to add is about the colors, the food colors which we use. So there are many people in current generation, we have started making this home-based sweets. We have started making this home-based bakery items. There are many people who started a business and started selling it outside. So in this thing, what we have to know is that the artificial food colors, are they permitted to use in food or not? So anyone can answer this. Artificial food colors, are they permitted or not? Okay, someone has said no. I'll just 1 minute. There are many questions which are coming up. I'll answer each question at the end of the session. I'm reading it, but I'll answer it at the end. Okay, so you can pose the questions, but I'll go one through it in the end. So artificial colors are not allowed. Okay. Can anyone tell me how this artificial color is coming? How is it made? Anyone, any idea? What is the source of it? Natural colors, we everyone know it. Natural colors like your turmeric, the beetroot base red color, your chili, Kashmiri chili red, that is all natural, that is all permitted. But the artificial color, the box, the liquid colors, or the paste which we get, or the bush colors which we get, are they permitted or not? So I have an answer that yes, certain colors are allowed. Okay, fine. So I'll first tell you the source of this artificial color. How is it made? So we know this crude oil. From crude oil, we extract this petrol. From petrol, we extract this diesel. After the diesel, what we get is kerosene. After kerosene, what we get is your bitumen. The bitumen which is used to make tar, the road, in the road which you put tar, dambar. So after tar, dambar, whatever extract is there, which is called as azo dye. That azo dye is used to make your artificial color. So the dye which is used to make artificial color, the azo dye, is basically a bi-petroleum based. It is a byproduct of your petroleum based. So that is what is used to make your artificial color. This artificial colors, if you use in any type of food, it takes 45 days to digest out of your body. It takes 45 days to digest out of your body. It is very, very harmful. It is highly carcinogenic. I repeat, all your artificial food colors are highly carcinogenic. Now the question is whether they can be used or not. Yes, it can be used. It can be used only for permitted food. It can't be used in all food. It is permitted for bakery, Indian sweets, ice creams, concentrated juice and beverages, and your savories. In this 5 products, there is a permissible limit. The limit is called as 100 ppm. Even in those products, if we use more than 100 ppm, it is unsafe for consumption. It is not allowed. It is unsafe. So now most of the people, the question they ask is that if it is so unsafe, it is a bipetroleum base, it's a tar extract, then why is it allowed in these products? The reason why it is allowed in this product is the quantity which we are permitting, the 100 ppm, is negligible. It is almost like for 10 kg, you'll be using 1 gram or 5 gram. It's not more than that. And a normal human consumption towards these products is very less. And we use it some days. We don't use it daily basis. We use some days at a very little quantity. We don't take it in a higher quantity. So in that way, when it goes to a body, it is negligible. But when it is taken in the normal cooked food, I repeat, when it is consumed in the normal cooked food, the quantity is increasing a lot. If you see, if you go out today, you go and order any food, any restaurant or any roadside food, we go and order. There will be tandoori tikka, there will be your chili chicken, there will be all your type of pahadi tikkas and other food item you have. You have this gravy. If you're going to order a kolhapuri gravy or any spicy Chinese food item or anything, every food have started color. Initially, I remember 10 years before, the color were only in bakery products. Then it came into Chinese products. Chinese, your Szechuan rice and other chili chicken, other. Now it has come to Indian tandoor products. There was a place where, like in Maharashtra and other place, if they have to make any kind of gravy to look at spicy, they have started adding color. Palak paneer, already it gets a good green color, but to make the paneer look even more attractive, people have started using color. The main problem is that people are not aware about it. If you go to any roadside food or any basic street food vendor, the small kids are attracted to the food which has more color. So that is the most important risk which we are going to. So this thing has to change. This will change only with the awareness. So consumption of colors has to be avoided. Bakery and Indian sweets you can use, but use it at a very minimum count. Don't use it beyond that. So this is one important thing about colors, about food colors. Next important thing, in the home, we have different cooking habits. So many people ask us is that the cooking what we do, many have done the reheating. they will be preparing one batch of food and they'll be using it up to 7 days or 6 days, 5 days. The first important thing is that any food you prepare, don't use more than 3 days. Within 3 days, use it or discard it. If you're keeping it chiller alone, if you're keeping it in a chiller, use it within 3 days and discard it. That is a maximum unsafe. So reheating, can we reheat again and again for a food? No. Any food can be reheated only once. Say that you have made a chicken gravy or you have made a veg sambar or dal. You have kept in your freezer or you have kept in a chiller. So next time when you use it, take only the batch you are going to consume. Only those batch you reheat it and remaining will be in the chiller. Today's generation, the kids and everyone who has started cooking, what they do is they cook it completely for the complete batch and they keep it again in the chiller and then again they take it and they heat it. If it is left over, they keep it. It is a very wrong habit. The more you heat it again and again, the pathogens, the microorganisms which are present in the food, it get habitual to it. They get adapted to that atmosphere, the heat. They won't die again. So it is a wrong habit. The another important thing about this I want to share is the thawing method. So what mix color with rice and halwa. Rice you can't, halwa you can use it because it is a sweet product. Okay. So coming back, as I told, this product, the colors, sorry, I just got diverted. So I was saying about this reheating process. So reheating anything, you can do it only once. Don't do it again and again. So after that, you have to keep it. We are discussing about thawing. So in this thawing, the most important thing is that thawing is a process like any frozen food you have. The frozen food, you have to get it into room temperature before you cook it. Today, everyone has started ordering your online food. Online chicken has started be selling, frozen chicken is coming, and you are getting this nuggets, you have got this frozen peas and other things. So in the label, they would have mentioned a thawing method. So whatever thawing method they are saying, you have to follow that thawing method strictly. Say for chicken, you have a frozen chicken, you have brought 1 kilo or 2 kilo packet. You have to thaw it for minimum 3 to 4 hours in a chiller. In the chiller, you keep it in the freezer, but you have to thaw it in a chiller. If you are doing in a normal, you want to use it immediately, you have to do it in a running water. Many people, what they do is they put it in a hot water and they keep it. Putting it in the hot water is a very, very wrong method. The problem when you put it in the hot water is that the partial part starts cooking already, which is very, very unsafe. The microorganism will start living in it, and when you cook it completely, it won't die. That is the risk behind it. Running water, get it into a normal condition and then use it. Now say that you have thawed your product and there is some leftover which you have not used. You can't keep it again in the freezer. You can keep it in the chiller, you can use it next day, but you can't re-thaw any product. So that is very, very wrong habit. Microwave, as ma'am asked, microwave, is it a right habit or not? We can't microwave. You can only microwave your butter, anything which is in the small quantity, that you can put it in the microwave and you can do it. Even if you have a chicken and other piece, you can cut it into small pieces, you can keep it for microwave, but it is not advisable. It has a risk in it. The microwave, the issue is that the heat doesn't goes to the core product. It doesn't goes to the core product. So that becomes very issue. So this we have to consider it before thawing. So that is what we have to check it. So after this thawing, next comes your storage practice. So the important storage practice, I'll just share you one image. In the fridge where we store it, what we have to do. Okay. So in your chiller, this is the right way of any kind of storage. Okay. So is this image visible to everyone? Dennis, can they see the image?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Very much.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. So if you see, the lowermost shelf is always for your fruits and vegetables. The middle shelf is for your milk-based product, cooked meat. That is your marinated product. And any kind of marinated fish or anything. Anything which is semi-cooked or it is cooked, that can be kept in the second last shelf. The upper shelf, it is all for your dairy products and leftover food. Any cooked food, any like your dal or any gravy or a rice which is left, that will come in the upper shelf. And the main, the frozen area. That frozen area is for your raw chicken, raw fish, you get those frozen pre-cooked meals, the packed meals. So those things will be kept in that. Frozen green peas, everything, frozen French fries, anything related to frozen, ice cubes, ice cream, everything will be kept up. Don't keep marinated product in the freezer. Don't keep milk in the freezer. The most common mistake everyone do is keeping milk in the freezer and the marinate. Milk, always keep it in the chiller. You keep it in the freezer or the chiller, the shelf life is same. Keeping it in the freezer, the nutrition value of the milk is lost. Because when you keep it in the freezer and you get it back to the normal condition, the fat in it starts breaking. And that nutrition value is not same as it is in the normal chiller. So never keep it in the freezer. The right side shelf, as we have mentioned, for all your egg products, juices, and other kind of thing, it will be kept in the right. This practice is the right practice. You can take a screenshot of it. You can keep. I'll share the image also at the end. This practice will ensure the product has a good shelf life. If anything is kept upside down in another way, the shelf life will start cross-contaminating your other product, where the life of the product will reduce. So this is the right way of storage. Another important practice of your storage is about your onions and potato. Onions and potatoes should always be kept in a shelf, in a rack which has areas for breathing. It should be in a perforated racks. It should be with the holes and everything so that they have the facility of breathing. If they don't have the breathing, if the air circulation is not right, what happens is that the between products will start getting spoiled quickly. So it is very important. It should be kept in a rack which has the perforation. Another important thing, many people travel out, they come after 1 week or 2 weeks and they will be left over with the potatoes. So after a week, what happens is the potato starts generating the sprout. So the sprout, one potato which has sprouted, can we use it or not? We can't use it. Sprouted potatoes are very, very harmful. It can become poisonous also. So please avoid using this sprouted potatoes. Always use the fresh one, normal one, and go according to them. So when it comes to home, the rule about safety is three things. One is purchase the right raw material. Second is do the right storage practice. Third is do the right cooking method. These are the three important basic rules for your home cooking. When we do these three things, everything will be right in the place. This is the most important thing which I want to share. Now, next topic we are going is, we will be discussing about your adulteration. What are the type of adulteration in every food and everything is there. So for that adulteration, I'll be having my colleague who will be joining, who will be showing a demo in our lab, and I'll be explaining that. Before that, this Eat Right Chennai, I'll be explaining few more topics. In this Eat Right Chennai, this initiative has started by Tamil Nadu Food Safety Department. So Eat Right Chennai, as we are going through this awareness program, this is a certification program also. When you go out, what are we supposed to see? The first thing what we have to see is, in restaurants, the Chennai Food Safety Department has taken an initiative that 1,000 restaurants in Chennai will be certified for hygiene rating. I repeat, 1,000 restaurants and hotels will be certified for hygiene rating. What is this hygiene rating? So now whenever you go out to have any kind of food in a restaurant, You search what type of restaurant I should select. What is the ideal and a good restaurant? So you go through the menu, you go through the Zomato rating, you go to the Dine Out, you go through LPP, and you search all those things. But all those rating which you see, that rating is mainly on the basis of the guest feedback. It is not a rating which is given on basis of a scientific evaluation. So if you go there, you go and have a paratha or something, and you don't get the authentic North Indian taste, you may give a negative feedback. Or there may be some competitor who will be coming in to put the business down for them. They will be giving a negative rating. So that rating is only on the basis of a feedback, so you can't trust on it completely. But FSSAI has started a rating which is only concerned about the hygiene, the safety aspect alone. So that rating is called as hygiene rating. So in that, the FSSAI logo will be there and the rating will be given in the smiley form, and that will be displayed in every restaurant. As of now, this is not mandatory. If people have traveled overseas and everything, you would have seen when you go into the restaurant, in the entrance, this hygiene rating will be displayed. India is moving towards the same. And I'm very proud to say that Chennai has taken an initiative to certify 1,000. Out of the 1,000, we have completed 600 plus restaurants in Chennai alone. So soon we will try to get that all the restaurants you'll be visiting will have this hygiene rating certificate displayed. So this is one of the initiative in Eat Right. Second initiative is Bhog, blissful hygienic offering at God's own place. So what is this blissful Bhog certification? In India, what we are trying to do is the temples, wherever the Annadanam Sapad is, the Annadanam food is being served to the people, wherever the prasadam is prepared and served to the all the devotees, for them, that kitchen should be certified. If you go to any, like we may go to Tirupati, we may go to Siddhavinayak, we go to this Venumaruda, these are all big temples. Okay, they will have some kind of system. But there are small temples where the Annadanam is done. And there are places where they don't have even a shed to do the cooking because they don't have the awareness. The basic awareness to them is not there. In Prasadam, we would have heard many complaints in newspaper and other things, cockroach issues, food poisoning issues. There are many things. It is not something which has happened knowingly. It has all happened because of negligence and lack of awareness. So the government of India has taken an initiative that the temples wherever the Annadanam is going to be done, they will be going through this Bhog certification. So we do a pre-audit and a final audit where we go and audit the place, we understand what they do, and then we suggest the changes to them. We will be training each and every staff who will be preparing food over there. And then we'll be doing a final audit after the changes are done, and they'll be getting a Bhog certificate. So this initiative is going successfully. In Tamil Nadu, we have done 40 plus temples already. We had done the Melmuruvatu temple. We are going to do for the ISKCON temple. We are going to do Sai Baba temple, Vadapalni temple. Everything is in pipeline. Pre-audit has been completed. Soon the final audit will be completed. So this is the second biggest initiative which we have taken, and it is going successfully in the right way. The next initiative is Eat Right Campus. We call this ERC, Eat Right Campus. This certification is mainly for the places where bulk food is prepared and served. For example, malls. The mall you go, you have different type of kitchens and everything. There are many cuisines and everywhere. Then your college hostels, the schools, like the midday meal food is prepared and served to many students. Then your industrial canteens where 1,200 many food are prepared and served. Anywhere there is a bulk consumption of food, bulk people is present over there. That campus is going for Eat Right Campus. In this Eat Right Campus, there are 4 things. One is mainly about the safety food. That is 40% of your food, wherever the food is prepared, is the kitchen hygienic. It is done safety wise or not. Second is whether the nutritional food is there, whether we are having a complete meal with fruits and vegetables, dairy product, rice, wheat, bajra, everything is part of your menu or not. Are we taking your seasonal fruits on time? Are you taking juices? Are you taking this fortified foods? Are the consumption of your fat-based product is less? fried product is less. This is done. Do we have any program to do yoga, nutritional counseling? All this is facilities done in the campus wherever you are available. Are you promoting the safe food habit, nutritious food? What is the nutritious food? What are the advantages between this food? Is this displayed and communicated to people by SMS, WhatsApp, or emails, or by postals? So these are the different initiatives which are part of this. How are you discarding your waste? What is the initiative that campus has taken to ensure the food waste is minimized? How is the water recycled? Water waste is managed or not? Plastic is recycled or they are using it, reusing it, reuse plastic is done or not? Oil, the oil which we are discarding, is this oil recycled or it is thrown directly into the drainage? So all this is being audited. We are guiding them and we are getting these changes. In Chennai, we have already got 4 to 5 places ERC. So what we have done is we have got for Apollo hospitals, we have got for this Madras Veterinary College, we have got for Loyola College. Right now, I'm just doing the audit for IIT Chennai. I'm in IIT campus only. We're just doing the pre-audit for them. And we have successfully done 3 schools, the midday meal, wherever the midday meal is served to the thousands of students. One of the school has got certified for that. So that is a big achievement. First school in the country that has got this midday meal certification. So that is being done. So these all programs are for a part of Eat Right Chennai. So whenever you go to such places, please look into this. As a customer, when we look into this, only at that time, this certification will be promoted. As of now, this all are voluntary basis. People are just selected. If you want to do it, you do it. But soon it will become mandatory. Before it becomes mandatory, when the customers select the places who have got this rating and certification, people will automatically start doing it. So that is what we are sharing to everyone. And mainly people should be aware. About hygiene rating, as I said, the whole plan is that within next 5 years, hygiene rating will become mandatory. Even if you go to a railway station, a small stall is there, it will be hygiene rating certified. Even if you go to an airport, it will be hygiene rating certified. The practice which hygiene rating is done in the airport, same will be seen in the railway station. That is what is the aim which we are keeping and we are doing. Trust me, we have started auditing street food vendors also. The roadside Pani Puri shop also, we are training them, we are auditing and we are sharing it. So that is what is the initiative which we are going on. So before I go for the adulteration, my colleague will join in 10 minutes. I will start answering all your questions. I'll just starting reading the chats. I'll go from the last. Okay. So one of the ma'am has asked about oil. How many times the oil can be reheated? Okay. Regarding oil, any oil whichever you're using, the count basically what we say is 2 times. But the 2 times you can't count it. In actual basis, that counting is very difficult. Because sometimes you'll put 100 puri, sometimes you put 1 puri or 2 vadas or 2 samosas. The count is very difficult. What you can do is, when you reheat the oil, if the oil has got black or if it has become thin like a water, you avoid using it. Normal practices, what we advise at home is, if morning you're using something for frying, use that oil for your tadka purpose. You can use it for your normal cooking and you can finish that oil. Don't reuse that oil again and again for frying purpose. Frying more than 2 times enough. Same oil you can use it for other purpose, for your normal cooking and other methods. So many people ask us that what type of oil is good for our health. See, when you take about oil, it is very important that we should use all type of oil at limited quantity. Our body needs different oil for different purposes. So that recycling, that different rotation of oil is more important. If you're using a groundnut oil for your frying, you use your sunflower oil for cooking. In Tamil Nadu, most of the people use sesame oil. They use the nallanna for your cooking. So even some places like your Kerala side, they use your coconut oil. So the important thing is that recycling, the rotation of oil. Don't stick to only single oil. Different oil, use it. Another thing is that palm oil. Palm oil is good for health or not? Palm oil is good. It is okay. But the consumption shouldn't be in more quantity. If you're going to use the product related to palm oil regularly for all the products, then that is a risky thing. So that thing we have to avoid it. If you're using palm oil, just use for frying purpose. Don't use for cooking purpose. Finish it and you can discard it. That is one thing. Another thing, subsies rich oil, you can use your normal groundnut oil or your sesame oil, olive oil, that all you can use for your preparation. Rice bran, yes, you can use it, 100% you can use it, but ensure it is only used for your frying, for your sorting, not for your frying purpose. Another important thing I wanted to share is about water. So there, one request, I can't say anything about brands because I am here to represent FSSAI. On behalf of FSSAI, I'm conducting this training program. So I can't talk anything about the brands. So I won't answer regarding that. So I have to talk about the water part. It is very important. We all should know on the water. So currently what is happening is that each and every places, we have started using this RO water. RO water is good for health or not? RO water is definitely not good for health. The problem is that it is safe water. 100% is a safe water. It is safe for consumption. But the problem is that the TDS, we call it as total dissolved solids. In the water, it goes drastically down. It comes to 100 to 150 or 75. So when the TDS level goes down, what happens is that the naturally available minerals in your food, in your water, goes drastically down. Means from the groundwater, you are getting natural minerals. When you go through your RO process, you are removing that minerals. If you see the advertisements and everything currently, RO purifier with added minerals, RO water bottles with added minerals, means you are extracting the natural minerals and you are adding it artificially. So you can imagine the health effects you will be having. Many people who are prone to this RO water from their birth, every day at home, outside, bottled water and everything, they have started getting this vitamin B12 deficiency. Because vitamin B12, the main source is from your water. So when you start using this RO water, your mineral levels goes down. So automatically this kind of deficiency starts coming in. For home, you can use AquaGuard. AquaGuard is basic filter. You get this UV filter and you get the micro filter type. Use those type of filtration only. Please avoid RO. Soon RO is going to be banned. Soon. It has already been given to the government and government is already reading it. Because apart from the mineral shortage, the biggest problem is actually the wastage. If you see the wastage in the water, the wastage is 60-40%. 40% you get to drink, 60% is wasted. So when a home where we consume around 20 liters, we waste around 50 liters of water, you can think the amount of wastage which is created for a big institutions, big hotels, big restaurants, where this RO is installed. So the RO is soon going to be banned. So please avoid it. AquaGuard or UV filters, you can use it. It is 100% safe for consumption. Okay. So my colleague is joining now. So is bubble top safe? Yes, bubble top is safe, but just ensure that the bubble top plastic containers are changed regularly. Don't use the same container for a long time. I'll answer your questions after some time. We'll start with the adulteration. So my colleague Divya has joined me. She'll be doing the experiments and I'll be just giving the voiceover from here. So we'll start with it and all your questions after this adulteration experiments, I'll answer. So we'll start now. Just 1 minute, Divya. Okay. So we are starting with chili powder. So what are the type of adulteration? You can unmute and tell me. So what adulterations we can see in chili powder? Okay, I'll tell it. So what commonly is that first is color. Second is that there is a possibility of brick powders. Brick powders is made into fine particles. Another is sawdust. The sawdust, they add color to it and that is added in. So if it is present in your chili powder or not, how to check it, we'll just show it. So take a glass, transparent glass, add some spoon of chili powder. So add water into it, normal plain water. So if you can see this, there are fine particles in it. The color of the water is not completely changed. it is only changed wherever you can see the, I can see the, so you can just see it. The color of the side surfaces has not changed at all. It is just the particles which is left over there. In case there is a change in the surface, in the outer surface, it means that there is a color which is added into it. So this is the first thing which you can see. You can see it in the normal paper cup also, which will be very easy for you to identify. Divya, just a small help. Can you give a voiceover directly so that it will be even easier?
Perfect, Vivek. I'll do that.
Yeah, please. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Vivek. So I hope my voice is very clear.
Yes, it is very clear.
Thank you so much. Now we will see if there is any brick powder added in your chili powder. So if there is any brick powder, how can we find the chili powder? First, take a glass of water. So this is a normal plain water which we use it for drinking. And I'm going to sprinkle the chili powder on the water. Once if I sprinkle the chili powder, is the chili powder settling down immediately or is it taking time to settle down? I hope the screen is visible.
Yes.
If it is settling down immediately, that indicates that your brick powder is added in your chili powder. Because usually brick powder is heavy in weight. Once you put it in the water, it will immediately sink. If it is directly settling down immediately, that indicates your chili powder is adulterated with brick powder. Okay, this indicates this chili powder is not adulterated with your brick powder. The second, I am going to take turmeric powder. Turmeric powder. What all will be the adulterant of turmeric powder? Your turmeric powder will be adulterated with color and some white color powder. It can be a rice flour, it can be a maida, it can be even a chalk powder, which we use it for writing on the board. This chalk powder. They will add a color called tartrazine in your white powder and they'll mix it with the turmeric powder. How do we find out if we have any white color powder added in your turmeric powder? For this, I have taken a glass, a transparent glass, and I'm going to add some turmeric powder to it. Okay, after adding some turmeric powder, I'm going to add some water. After adding the water, just mix it well. Okay, after mixing it well, you will have to allow the turmeric powder to settle. When it gets settled, if you find any white color layer settling down at the bottom, that indicates that the turmeric powder is adulterated with some white powder. Okay, I'm just allowing it for a second. Before that, I'll give you another technique on how to find out your turmeric powder. You just have to boil the water. Okay, in the hot water, you add a piece of chili, green chili. Cut it into half and add the chili, green chili into the hot water and add a pinch of salt, pinch of turmeric powder. The color of the water, if it becomes red, that indicates your turmeric powder is and not adulterated. If it is not changing to red color, that indicates the turmeric powder is adulterated. I hope you can able to see the white color layer settles down in the bottom.
Yes.
Okay. This indicates that this turmeric powder is okay. This indicates that this turmeric powder is adulterated. The next, I'm going to show you on your pepper. What is pepper usually adulterated with? Your whole pepper. Okay, your whole pepper. As you all know, your whole pepper is adulterated mostly with your papaya seeds. Papaya seeds. So what will happen if you add pepper in the water? If there is any papaya seeds, it will float. Okay, I'm just going to check if in my pepper which I has any papaya seeds. So for that, I am going to add it in the water. I hope you can able to see how much is floating in the water. So the floating ones are called substandard product, and the one which is settles down are the good quality pepper. The one which are floating are called substandard product. The reason for why it is floating is three. One, if you have papaya seeds. Two, if the pepper is not matured properly or if it is not dried properly. And the third very important thing is if the pepper oil is removed from the pepper. If the pepper oil is removed from the pepper, there is no weight in the pepper and it will float in the water. So when you buy the pepper, you usually feel, even after adding 2 or 3 spoons of pepper, you will not get the spiciness. Okay, because the oil, the essence has been completely removed, and only the body which is there in your pepper with the original pepper, where they get more profit. Okay, so the one which are floating are called substandard product. One in the bottom are called good pepper. Okay, the next I'm going to show you.
I'll mute Divya.
Thank you so much. Okay, the next I'm going to show you on your okay,
Just 1
your
minute.
cumin seeds. So for this, I have taken some cumin seeds on my hand and I'm going to rub it vigorously with the other hand. Just rub it vigorously by pushing full strength. After rubbing it vigorously, discard the cumin seeds. After discarding, you should not see any black color deposition on the hand. If you are seeing black color deposition on the hand, that indicates that the cumin seeds are adulterated or a substandard product. Okay, if there is no black deposition on your hand, that indicates that your cumin seeds are good quality cumin seeds. The last I'm going to show you on our milk. Okay, milk. How do we find out and what all will be the adulterants of milk? Milk is mostly adulterated with water, as you all know. How to find out water in milk? Just convert into curd. If there is any water content seen in the curd, that indicates that the milk is adulterated with water. Okay, and the second important thing is they will add starch powder to the milk to make it more thick. Okay, so if you're having any tea in the tea shop wala, and if you're not getting hungry, the one which are taken in the morning, you will not feel hungry till the afternoon. Okay, it is maybe because they have added some starch powder to it to make your tea or a coffee thicker one. How do we find out that? We'll have to use tincture iodine for that. This tincture iodine will be available in your first aid box, and this is commonly available in all the medical shop. The one which I have is little bigger. You can buy a smaller one which is only 20-25 rupees. Okay, I'm going to add it in the milk, and I have 2 samples of milk with me, and I'm going to add it in both the milk. We'll see if there is any color change that is visible in the milk. I have added 2-3 drops and I'm mixing it. I hope you are not able to see any color change. And I'm now going to add it to a second sample. Same 2 to 3 drops. The color changed. I'm showing the board so that you will get the difference. The color changes in this milk. That indicates this milk has starch in it. Okay, actually this will turn to a blue color. Okay, this is lighter. If you add more, you will get a dark blue in color. Okay, you will get a dark blue in color. That indicates that the milk is adulterated with starch. This starch technique can be used for any item. If you feel that any starch has been present in it, you just add a few drops of iodine. Immediately, if it changes to blue color, it indicates that the product is adulterated with starch. So you can use a spoon. I have taken a bigger glass. You can just take a spoon of milk and add a drop of iodine. If the color changes, that indicates that the milk is adulterated. Okay, this is all what I had just wanted to show you on the adulteration. Over to Vivek.
Thank you, Divya. Okay, so as we'll be continuing regarding this adulteration, I want to add some more thing. First of all, adulteration, the meaning of adulteration is that adding any specific content to a food which is not naturally present and you're increasing it artificially, or you are removing some substance from the food. Adulteration doesn't mean that the food has to be necessarily harmful. It can be harmful or it cannot be harmful. For example, we add milk to your, we add water to the milk. That is adulterated, but that is not harmful. In the same milk, when you add urea to it, that is definitely harmful. So, any type of food which is adulterated, it is definitely non-standard food. It can be harmful or it cannot be harmful. So we saw some of the basic experiments which we can do at home itself. Other than that, I will tell you, you have discussed about your turmeric, red chili powder, your pepper, and you have seen about the milk which she has said. The milk iodine test which you saw, apart from the iodine for the milk, you can see the same in the fresh cream. You can do the same test for your ice creams. Any milk-based ice creams, they say that they sell it, they may contain this kind of adulteration to it. They will be having some kind of starch present in it. So those things you can identify easily with this experiment. In ice cream, when I was saying, many ice cream, they say that it is the frozen desserts. I forget the frozen desserts which we say. Most of the frozen dessert which is available in the market is made up of vegetable oil. So when you see this packet, when you see this label, please check for the frozen dessert specifically whether it is 100% milk based or whether it contains vegetable oil. Vegetable oil specific frozen desserts can't be labeled as frozen desserts at all. There were many cases which had happened the year before and many companies have changed it, but still we need to be very much aware about it. In the frozen desserts, please always check whether it contains vegetable oil present or not in the ice cream. That is one thing. Apart from that, in the adulteration, many vegetables, specifically to us, when we go to any supermarket or any vegetable market, we see this colorful vegetables. So many people have a mindset doubt, ki, is this color natural color or it is an artificially added color? How do we find it? In the market itself, how can we find it? Very simple. We all will be having certain perfume, deodorant or anything, or your nail polish remover. To use that perfume, you just spray it in one of the vegetable which you have a doubt, and you rub it with a tissue paper, white tissue paper. In case it has any kind of color added to it, which is artificial, that color will definitely come down to your tissue paper because your perfume or a deodorant or this nail polish remover has the alcohol content. That alcohol content will definitely remove your color into it. So this one thing you can check when you buy the vegetables. Second is for your egg. So whenever you purchase any kind of egg, if you have a doubt whether it is a fresh egg or not, whether it is spoiled or rotten, very simple. Just take that egg, put a mobile torchlight and just see inner side. If it has any kind of blood clot, it will be showing a red color inside, or it will be showing some black color if it is really old. If the egg is coming to your home or you have purchased from the market and you have come, if you have a doubt ki this vendor is genuine or not, just simple. Take a glass of water, put the egg into it. If the egg sinks down, it is a fresh egg. If it is in between or if it is in the top, it is a rotten egg. It is an old rotten egg. Very simple way to check your egg whether it is fresh or not. Another example about your adulteration is the ghee. The ghee which you buy, we all have a doubt whether it is pure, original or not, whether it is adulterated with anything. You can do a simple experiment. You have a mixer at the home. So in the mixer, fill some water up to the top, leave some small headspace. And in that, you take a water lid with a bigger circumference, add your ghee into that and allow that lid to float in the mixer and give some circulation to it. If the ghee is adulterated with any kind of oil, after the circulation, the layers will be distinguished. The oil and the ghee will get separated. So that way you can very easily check at the home itself for your oil. Another thing is regarding jaggery, the jaggery which we buy in the market. So if you go towards the northern part of the country, you'll see the jaggery color will be changing. As you go up, the jaggery will become whitened. So the natural jaggery which you get from the sugarcane base, it is always black in color. Black means it is in the darkish yellow, darkish brown. It is yellow to brown. But when you go in the northern side, it becomes white. It becomes light yellow to white. So the white which comes is basically sugar. Some places what happens is you will be finding a jaggery which is white, some part it is white and some part it is black. That is basically it is adulterated with sugar. So if you have the doubt, what you can do is take a torchlight again and put it. The sugar has a crystalline structure. When it has a crystalline structure, the light will travel through. If the light travels through your jaggery and it comes out, it means there is sugar present in specific areas. If it doesn't travel out, it means that it is 100% pure jaggery. This is a simple experiment which you can do. Another thing is the asafoetida, the hing, perangayan, which we say. Asafoetida, which is available in the market, we basically, when you see the label, it is called as compounded asafoetida. I repeat, it is called as compounded asafoetida. 100% pure complete asafoetida is never available in the market. Will just contain 10% of the asafoetida. The asafoetida is basically a plant origin. It is like a gum. It comes from the trees. We cut it and the gum comes in and it is completely hydrated and then the powder is taken out. This, if you take 100% asafoetida, it has a texture. It is basically the chemical property of it is like a camphor. It is like a camphor. So this is mainly originated in Afghanistan. It is in those Middle East area. Afghanistan is the maximum producer of this asafoetida. The 100% pure asafoetida in Afghanistan and the other countries, what they use is for a third-degree torture of any kind of criminals. Because when you smell that 100% of asafoetida for continuously for a long duration, you lose your senses. It's like that. It is very, 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 very highly inflamed, very, very highly sensitive. So that is the reason we get compounded asafoetida, which will have only 10% of asafoetida, remaining is salt, which is mixed together, which is 100% pure. But in market, what currently is happening is that 10% is also not available. In the salt, they just spray the asafoetida essence and they sell it. So this you can, how you can identify it. Take a asafoetida in a spoon and burn it with. If it takes any spark, if it catches little bit of fire or even it leaves little bit of spark in the air, it means that it has asafoetida present in it. Because of the camphor property, it will catch fire. But if you keep it for a long time and it doesn't catch fire at all, it means that it is adulterated. It is just the essence of the asafoetida. So this is one thing which you can check. Another thing regarding the jeera. So jeera which we get at home. So what you can do is take the jeera, take it in between your palm and crush it completely. Crush it completely and see whether your center of the palm turns black in color or not. The reason, if it is adulterated, it will turn black. So what is it adulterated with? The rice husk, the bran, the husk, the outer layer, the rice and the wheat husk and brans which we get, that husk is perfumed. The essence of jeera is put into it and that is sold in the market. So when it ages, it becomes dry and when you squeeze it in the hand, you'll get that black spots identified in it. So this is the jeera adulteration which is done. Tea powder you can take it. Take a normal glass of water, plain glass, transparent glass, normal water. Put a spoon of tea powder in it. If the color of the water changes to red or brown or anything, it means that is adulterated. Tea powder will change color in water only when the water is boiling. Only when the water is boiling. Unless until it is not boiling, it won't leave the color. If it leaves red color in the normal water itself, it means it is adulterated with color. So this you can check at home. And apart from that, most important things I think Divya has already shared with you. So these were the important things about the adulteration which we wanted to discuss. Now I'll keep the channel open for the questioners. So anyone, whoever has questions, you can unmute yourself and you can ask. I am going through the chat also. How to test cooking oils if it is adulterated or not? If the cooking oil is adulterated with any other oil, if it is adulterated with two types of oil, you can keep it in the freezer or in the chiller. Because of the weight, both the oils will be separated and it will settle down separately. So you can check it in that way. How organic is organic food? So any food which comes with the name of organic, it doesn't mean it is organic. No one has certified it. So organic, FSSAI has given a symbol to it. Only when they get that organic symbol from the FSSAI government, it is approved. I'll show you the symbol. Just 1 minute. So when any companies claim as they are organic, their food is organic, they have to submit certain documents to the government. After they submit it, government approves it. If it is organic, it will be having this logo which you're seeing in the screen, Jaivik Bharat. This is the symbol for organic. So only this, with this information, you know whether it is organic or not. Okay, and next question, I'll just see it. Bubble top safe, I've already. Hygiene rating photo, I'll just share it to you in 1 minute. So anyone has any other question, you can unmute and ask. I'm just going through the chats. We have another 10 minutes. After 10 minutes, we'll end the session. So any questions, please ask me. Home also color with rice. We have answered.
How much of iodine should be there in the salt?
Yes.
Percentage.
So your iodine percentage will be between 7.5% to 8.5%. So that is the ideal level which has to be there. So it will be mentioned in the label. I was just trying to find this label which is there. So I'll just show it. I'm just searching for the label. So how the iodine is mentioned. I'll just show it to you, ma'am.
So
I'll just show you.
Normal salt is good, Tata salt and all these other salts are also good. It's not necessary we have to have the rock salt.
It is not necessary. Iodized salt is good for your health. Rock salt is also good, means both the salt are good. But we need to ensure that we have some kind of iodine intake in our body. Specifically to the people, because normally some places the iodine is available in the water itself. But when you don't get the basic requirement of iodine, you get to this problem of thyroid. So that is the reason why you need to have iodine present. If you're taking some source of iodine, it is okay. It's not that ki iodine salt is better or rock salt is better. Both are good. But we need to take this iodine.
Thank you.
Yeah, what is the difference between the pink salt and the rock salt? Rock salt, pink salt, you get gray salt also. What is the difference in all these salts?
So pink salt is basically not bleached. It is a natural, it is a direct salt which is coming. Some places, what they do is, some places you get, it is basically the origin, means wherever the salt it is originated, naturally if it is coming, it comes with color, or some places naturally it comes in the white color. So if it is a rock base, you get it in a pink color. If it is, you get it in the water base, it comes in a white color. Some places what people do is that to make it even more white, they add bleaching agent to it, or they add color whitener to it. So that is what is harmful. So if you have a doubt that your white salt or your rock salt has certain color or any kind of detergent or whitener added to it, mix it with the water and check it. So take a plain water, you mix it. The water color should not change. Salt, whenever you put it, the color will not change. If it changes to white, it means that it is adulterated with the color. Pink salt, it is good. There is no issue. It is basically the origin where it comes from.
Oh, okay. Okay, thanks.
What
Is
about
is Nat Shakre good?
Natu Sakra is very good.
Okay. So because if I'm not mistaken, one session we heard that Nati Shakra is also like it's not that like to the fullest. It is not the real proper one.
The problem is that the Natu Sakra should not be adulterated. That is the
Yeah.
again,
So how
where
do you
get
come
it.
to know that?
Yeah,
How do you
that's
come
what
to know that?
I wanted to ask, if sugar can be adulterated and with what, and how do you check?
So again, Natu Sakra adulteration, finding at a home level, it is very difficult. Honestly, it is not possible. But the sugar, yes, you can find it. The sugar, same like salt, the color is whitening agent is added to it to make it more attractive. So when you put it in the water again, if the water color changes to white, it means it is adulterated with some kind of agent. And Natu Sakra, there is no medium where you can find it. It is the way the taste only you can understand, or you can send it to the lab and you can identify it. As of now, what we understand, the darker the Natu Sakra color, it is more pure. That is what we have identified as of now at a home level. But otherwise, it is very difficult to identify. But in reality,
Which oil is good?
Natu Sakra is good. Natu Sakra is better than the normal salt.
Thank
Which
you.
oil is good for cooking? Like bran, rice,
As I said,
sunflower.
ma'am, rice, so in terms of oil, you need to do the rotation of oil. You rotate your oil. You use sunflower, you use sesame oil, you use rice bran. So for your different type of cooking and different type of product, rotate the oils and use it. Like for we normally what we say is like for your frying purpose, you use one type of oil. That is, we say that you use your groundnut oil or sunflower oil or rice bran oil. For normal sorting process, you use your groundnut or your sesame oil. And for the tadka purpose, you use another oil. So more the oil is circulated, it is more good for the health. So that is the whole thing.
So we get these boxes like these masalas in boxes like kasuri methi or some coriander powder, garam masala and all. So those packeted boxes, what do you see in that to know whether it is a good brand, like not brand, whether it is a good, not adulterated?
So in the packet itself, like for the chili powder and everything, we showed some of the experiments. For other kasturi methi or everything, you just need to see the labeling part, the nutrition information part, the FSSAI license number is available or not, and whether it is packed in the right way. For other things, it is difficult because it is a mixture of different ingredients. Single ingredients, identifying the adulteration is easy. But for the multiple ingredients mixed product, identifying at a home level, it is difficult. But you have to check the labeling. As I said, FSSAI number, manufacturing date, batch number, best before date, ingredients, and the nutritional information. These things we have to check.
Some few sugars, it's written no sulfurless sugar, and still it is sulfurless or not. How can we check on that?
We have to check it through lab only, ma'am. As you said, the difference between the normal Natu Sakra salt and the crystal salt, the issue is this only. Many places sulfur is used for making it whitening and the cleaning purpose. So when this whitening and the cleaning purpose, this kind of chemical is used, there is some percentage which is naturally present. So during the process of sugarcane to sugar itself, at that time itself, it is added. FSSAI has allowed a permissible limit. Some places is beyond the permissible limit, which is harmful. The sulfur presence is not, it is present. In all sugar, it will be present. But within the limit, if it is there or not, we have to check it through lab.
What about the question?
Yes.
Another question I too have.
Yeah, please.
Okay. Sorry. Okay, go ahead.
Shall I go ahead?
Yes, please.
What about the rice and the wheat flour which you get? Which rice? The basmati rice is all these fancy rices. They have different types of rices. You know,
Go for
one,
the
the long one,
rice, normal
plastic,
your
they
raw
have
rice.
plastic in the basmati rice.
So basmati rice in a day-to-day basis, regular all-time consumption, it is not advisable.
Achha.
Take it in a like once in a week or twice in a week in that time. So it will help in a digestion. So basically your normal basmati rice takes more time to digestion. So that way it affects your body. So that take it in, even if you see in the northern part, when you go towards the northern side, rice is taken in very little quantity, then only they take the basmati rice. In our south, if you say rice is the main meal, it's a staple food. We can't consume basmati rice in that quantity. So whenever you take it in the little quantity, it is okay. Again, your type of your food which you have to choose is all dependent on the geographical location. If you're going to have a typical Punjabi based food menu, which we have it over there in Tamil Nadu, it won't be easy for us to digest. So the food is mainly on the basis of the origin of a location and the rice. It comes to the rice, it is that. For our here local, you use the basic raw rice. That is a good habit.
Raw rice is better than the boiled rice or the brown rice?
Boiled rice is better than all the rice. the half boil which we get, that is better than all the rice.
And what about the wheat flour?
Yes.
Is it also adulterated which you're getting the ready packet? Are they mixing adulterated with something else?
Wheat flour, there is not much of adulteration. Maybe it can be adulterated with maida. Means what we call it as 100% pure atta can be adulterated with maida. Otherwise, there is no other adulteration.
Okay, thank you.
So, sir, we have this Paris company's Amrit brown sugar. This is quite debatable. This sugar, as such, saying this brown sugar should not be used. Better is to use the white sugar itself because this has color added to it and nothing else. No other goodness of sugarcane. Can you please throw some light on this?
So basically, the brown sugar, when you see the sugar process, if you see any videos how the sugar is being made, it is actually brown in color. So to make it even more consumable, it is made into white and some things are added. So that is the only thing. So brown sugar, the process how it is made. Some places what they do is Paris, like a company like Paris, they actually make brown sugar and then they do the white sugar. But there are some local companies, what they do is they buy the white sugar and they add brown color.
Yeah, it's coated.
That is what is the problem. When it is naturally brown, there is no problem in that.
Okay, thank you.
And how do we test it?
Yeah, how do we test it? Even that is the same question even I have.
So at home level, it is difficult, ma'am. It is difficult to test it at home level for this kind of specific products.
So can you tell us which brand is correct? Have you tested any of these brands?
As I told before itself, I'm representing FSSAI and the government. I can't talk about any brands.
Okay.
I'm really sorry about that.
Okay, sir. Could you tell us what is the role of ghee in our daily cooking? How much of ghee can we consume?
It's normal. It is just like a basic cooking. See, it depends on the person's body and how you use it. Ghee should be used. Ghee, butter, everything we have to use it. But everything is within the quantity. It is 100% that is good. Normally, what we say is like 10 gram to 10 gram, up to 10 gram, it is acceptable. It's not only ghee, but it is the complete oil which is together and safe.
Okay, thank you.
So butter, ghee, oil, everything will come under that together. See, when you talk about ghee, in South, if you see the ghee is not added that much. When you go to the northern region, right from your rice, roti, each and everything, even in the Maggi, they'll put your ghee and or butter, they will put and give it to you. So it is mainly on the climatic condition and your requirement of the place for your digestion. That is the quantity. So it varies from place to place. Okay. Any other questions?
We buy this idli dosa batter. Do you all check that and do you all give that thing for that? How to check the packet? How do we know that some are not even branded, but sold by good branded outlets?
See, the problem is like now idli batter, there are many companies which have started. Like during the COVID period, if you see, many home-based business people have started this doing and selling it in the local market. They tie up with a good margin. Some brands, they do get it tested at the lab. They do get it verified and they give it. But not everyone do that. So anyone who does the shelf life study, see, we get many of our clients. So they come, they do the shelf life study, they do the nutrition study, what type of preservatives can be added, whether it is safe for so many days or not. It is checked and verified. And then only they put it. But some local brands, if you see, they won't be having those details. But they might be good, they might not be good. If anything goes wrong in that product, we will be responsible. They won't claim any responsibility. That is the only risk.
So FSSAI is mentioned for those idli batters or no? Do they need to be having a FSSAI number?
They need to have it. Any product, if it is packed and sold in a counter, it should have FSSAI. Even if you go to XYZ restaurant and they are selling their own brand snacks or any masalas, they should have it. If it is packed and sold in the counter, it should have FSSAI labeling guidance.
Okay.
The paneer also?
Everything, ma'am. Everything has. If it is packed, it has to be there. Someone has asked about honey. So before we end the session, I'll tell about honey and the adulteration. So the most common adulteration found in honey is sugar syrup. So it's very simple. You can do is that take this honey in a cotton wick, dip it in the honey completely, and burn it. When you burn it, it should catch fire. If it doesn't catch fire, means it has some kind of water content added to it. After burning, if the complete place get a smell of caramel, if you get a smell of caramel in the complete room, it means that it is highly adulterated with sugar syrup. If you just take it near your nose and you smell it and you feel the caramel, it means it is fine, it is good. Because naturally sugar will contain, naturally honey will contain little amount of sugar which is allowed. So it should come only when you smell it. But when you keep it around and the complete room gets that smell, it means it is adulterated. Sugar with a higher quantity. You shouldn't get the caramel smell. Okay, so I hope I have answered most of the important questions. So if you have any other questions, you can ask, because I have to go for the audit. I have to continue with the audit. So before we can close the session, any important questions you can please ask.
Sir, I just wanted to know about the palm oil, as I had asked you. Palm oil is good or not, which is widely used in all packaging products.
All your palm oil, whatever for your frying item and everything you're using, palm oil is the most common thing which is used. Even if you see the traditional cooking method of the people at backside in the village and everything, even in the basic ration shop, you get palm oil. Consumption of palm oil is not harmful, but the quantity in which you're going to take it, it is very risky. Normally, it is used only for frying purpose. If you see the palm oil in the label, wherever it is product, it is only for your fried product. So if you consume that product in a lesser quantity, it is not harmful. But the same product, if you use it regularly on a daily basis, it is harmful. For example, in back village, what they use is palm oil, they use it only for frying. For other purpose, they use the groundnut or the sesame oil or your sunflower oil. So it is all about the consumption. Palm oil, when it is consumed on a little quantity, it is not at all harmful.
Sir, but all the biscuits are also having palm oil, no? Even milk bikis, they are not fried.
They are not fried. They will be having, palm oil is basically like we use butter, like we use margarine for your bakery products. Similar to that, the palm oil is used. So it can be used. It is not that it is harmful or it cannot be used. As a normal human being, the consumption of the palm oil based food should be less. That is only.
Okay, sir. Thank you.
I have one question about honey.
Yes.
When you say honey is a natural product, and then they say there's raw honey and honey. What is this raw honey if it is natural?
Raw honey is basically once you get this honey directly from the comb, which we take it out, if there is no process, if it is just directly taken and it is packed immediately, that is what you say raw. After you take it and it goes through a process. So sugar, as I said, sugar is added to it at a limited quantity. It goes through a process and it is all goes through the machine, and there's a filtration process and everything, cleaning process happens, and sugar is taken and then it is stored and then it is packed. That is your processed honey. So that is the difference between your raw honey and processed honey.
So that is okay. So even a processed honey is considered natural only?
Yes, it is considered natural. But again, so when we say this natural honey, in FSSAI, there is a prescription saying that natural honey should contain sugar this much and the other type of sugar at which quantity. So when it has within that quantity, it is natural honey. Because your main content is your natural content. So that will be called as natural honey.
Thank you.
Thank you, Vivek.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Dennis, I think so we can come to the ending of the
Yes,
session.
sir, we can. Yes, sir. Thank you, sir. Thank you. Audible, sir.
Anyone has to give feedback, anything, everyone are open to it before we end the session.
It was very good.
It was a very nice session, sir. Thank you so much.
Yeah, very
helpful.
informative and educative also. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Informative session, and I feel even you should do for the rotaries, because there are too many rotaries over here also. So if you do for rotaries, I think that would be really good also.
Definitely. I think with the help of Dennis and Savera group of hotels, we'll definitely target each and everyone. Our aim is to reach maximum people at all type of sectors. That is why, as I said, street food vendors, hotel, restaurants, schools, everywhere we are reaching. Wherever possible, 100% we will reach and give our best.
So thank you so much, Vivek. So I've been hearing this from the beginning.
Thank you.
Every time I hear it, I learn something new.
Thank
so
you,
it's
thank you.
fantastic. I'm sure all our ladies enjoyed it.
Thank you
And
very much.
thank you for making food safe for us, sir.
Thank you very much. Okay, Dennis, can we end it? Can I leave?
Yes, sir.
Yeah.
Thank you very much.